Hello. Today in this video we are going to talk about software process trends. Unlike other videos, I am putting a date to this presentation since process trends are bound to change and especially as considering software as an industry, it's maturing and changing very fast. These trends are bound to change in the coming years. So what I'm going to talk is as of April 2011. So what is a trend? Now a trend is something which is changing, and a trend indicates what direction it is changing. Now for example, a trend, if you talk about the technology and the mobile phones today, the trend is a smartphone, and a touch screen smartphone. So if you are a phone manufacturer, it's very unlikely that you will start a business without considering producing um, the smartphones. So that's a trend. And similarly, there are trends in almost all fields. Now whether you talk about manufacturing or service or even politics, or whatever you take it, it will be possible to look at trends because that indicates what is changing in that particular industry. So it's quite natural that organizations or companies or groups who adopt these emerging trends benefit significantly, because it's well known that early adopters uh, stand to benefit. Whether it is introducing a new technology or a new process or whatever it is, the first adopters or the early adopters significantly benefit compared to the others. And that's the reason why we need to understand trends so that we can be the early movers. Just so that we will understand trends in a little more easier way, here are a couple of examples. Now, the first one is the trend of moving to supermarkets and hypermarkets in India, and this happened sometime in the mid of the first decade in the 21st century, somewhere around 2005, and that's when a lot of companies started investing in the bigger supermarkets, and then supermarkets began to garner a lot of market share, and almost all of us would have gone to one of these supermarkets that we see here, right? So the smaller stores transitioning themselves to bigger supermarkets where consumers enjoy things, and that's the trend that we saw in India in the a few years back. Another example of a real big trend which almost all of us would have experienced is moving from uh, postal mail to email, and now over the last couple of years to Facebook and Twitter. And today communication through Facebook and Twitter is almost considered to be the in thing, and even email is starting to look outdated, right? So that's an example of a trend happening in the communication industry. So with that, we will move to talking about what are the emerging trends in the software development process. Now here we are going to talk about the process trends and not the technology trends. There are a lot of technology trends like virtualization, cloud computing, and all of those stuff happening. We are not really going to be talking about those today. What we are going to talk about is about the process trends in the software development field. The first one I wanted to talk about is agile. Agile has been a buzzword for almost a decade now. I think the first instances of agile use started in the late 90s, and then over the next few years, different companies started experimenting agile in many forms. There's several agile frameworks like Scrum, Extreme Programming, feature driven development, and so on sprung, and a lot of companies started using it. Now a couple of those started gaining more popularity, Scrum being the one that most companies started looking at, and it gives you a certain approach of software development, and there are certain aspects like importance of people over processes, and then more collaboration being some of the key themes in agile. Now, one of the biggest advantages of agile is how it really improves collaboration within a team, which is very important as far as software development is concerned. Because we all know that software is about converting people's ideas and needs into technology, right? That's what a business user wants. A business user really has some ideas, has some thoughts on what he wants to achieve, and then the software, we try to convert that to using technology. So during the process, how we really anticipate what the customer needs and how we then communicate back to the development team and so on and so forth is very important, and a good team collaboration helps, and that's something Agile definitely does. Also, from a business perspective, what Agile tries to do is to really find answers quickly to whatever problems there are, and from a turnaround time perspective, helps deliver a working software much faster. So naturally, there are certain business drivers of adopting Agile, and a lot of companies are finding that these two objectives, time to market and collaboration, being one of the primary drivers for adopting. However, there are concerns. Agile is still not proven, in the sense that we don't have very solid case studies that tell that Agile is beneficial over a different technique. Yes, there are certain situations where Agile would be useful, and that's what companies need to identify. The other thing is, of course, Agile is contrary to the de-skilling, right? It still needs skilled resources who are capable of doing an end-to-end software development, which is again a scarcity today. And as companies grow, finding skilled resources to fill in positions as needed in Agile might be a challenge. So what I believe is, yes, Agile definitely is important and has a place in software development, and probably understanding where to apply and what situations it might be beneficial would be the key, and companies who do that definitely stand to gain. The second trend is something which is very interesting, and I tend to like this a lot, like this concept a lot. The concept of technical debt. Now, what really it means is how the technical complexity of an application is adding costs to the company having their application, and that's really the concept behind technical debt. As a terminology, it was invented a few years back. Now, what really it means is that once an application is built, the company spends a lot of cost in maintaining it over its lifetime. Now, an application could have issues, functional issues like outages and defects. It could have performance issues, right? Security breaches could happen, data corruption could happen. Now, all of these are maintenance that is needed for the application over its lifetime. We are not really talking about any new enhancements or modifications being made to support new functionalities. We are only talking about making corrections and preventive effort that is spent on an application. And there are some studies also that is done recently that indicate that the amount of money that companies spend is enormous. On average, it exceeds $1 million for each application, and that roughly translates to almost like $3 for every line of code in the application. That's a phenomenally high number, right? Now, how do we reduce that? Now, the key to reduce that is to make the application less complex from a technical perspective, right? So we have to look at perspectives like maintainability, usability, performance, scalability, and so on and so forth. And one of the best ways to do that is to look at lead indicators for these in the code. And there are metrics like cyclomatic complexity, coupling, depth of inheritance, response per class, and so on, that really indicates how complex the application is. So, as companies, we want to really look at how the total cost of ownership of applications can be kept down, and ensuring that this concept is well understood and applications are built from a perspective of maintainability and the other factors that we talked about would be really important. And definitely, this has a potential to ensure that applications are built in a more mature way that results in less maintenance cost. Now, that's again not going to be easy, because today the understanding of code metrics like cyclomatic complexity and coupling between objects, and in fact, really the concept of object oriented programming may not be that good in many places. So that first, that needs to improve. And also we have challenges around tools, because fundamentally tools are needed to measure these metrics. It's practically impossible to measure it manually. So tools would be needed, and so again the knowledge of the tool and how to use them would be important. So there are companies, like I said, who have started to make a head start here. They have a positioning and a point of view here, and in the coming months and years, probably we will see more clarity emerging on how exactly and what should be the standards, especially for some of these code metrics, and what, and maybe maybe there could be an ISO standard coming here that says that applications should have these kind of code quality metrics. That would be probably be the direction that the industry would benefit from. The next trend we are going to talk here is Lean and Six Sigma. This is again being in use in many organizations today. Lean, as you know, focuses on reducing waste, and Six Sigma focuses on applying very structured techniques like process control and all that will help to improve process stability and capability. Now, so when these two combine, right, it becomes a very good combination to bring in improvement in the whole software process. So basically, these are tools that are used for process improvement, and manufacturing industries have used this for decades. Now, however, again in software it has been limited, but in the recent years we are seeing more incidents of use, and that's definitely something going to help. One of the most common uses we have seen is using it in production support kind of scenarios to bring in SLA improvements, as well as improving using Lean to bring in business process workflows improvement that helps in reducing the overall turnaround times. One of the challenges in Lean and Six Sigma is good metrics, and which is sometimes scarce in software. That one needs to be improved, and that hygiene would really help to get the maximum benefits out of Lean and Six Sigma.